Vandenberg Air Force Base in 2003. And this is not an anonymous, but this is about incursions over, listen to this. I promised this individual that I met at Seoul Conference. He's a witness. He's a military guy. My name is Jeffrey Nusatelli. I served 16 years in the United States Air Force as a technical sergeant and a military police officer. In October 2003, my coworkers and I witnessed a series of extraordinary UAP incursions at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. The initial event is known as the Vandenberg Red Square, and it was first mentioned during the historic UAP hearing held in 2023. The case involved Boeing contractors who witnessed a huge red square-shaped object, roughly the size of a football field, hovering over a missile defense system. The object was silent and had no visible means of propulsion. The contractors watched in amazement as the massive object slowly drifted east and vanished over the hills. I retained official Air Force records of the event, including the blotter form entry, which includes the names and contact information of all the witnesses, and provided it to select members of Congress, AARO, and the FBI. AARO is a new UAP task force, All-Domain Anomalous Resolution Office. After the initial event, several other UAP incursions took place at Vandenberg. I was on duty during many of the encounters, and I investigated the incidents as they unfolded. Now remember, this is not anonymous reporting here. They include a football field-sized craft that terrified security guards as it silently hovered over a launch facility before flying off at an unbelievable rate of speed. A brightly illuminated silent object that landed on the base flight line before accelerating instantaneously and disappearing into space. A huge triangular-shaped craft larger than a C-130 that hovered 50 feet over a police officer before it drifted slowly over the base. A blue-white liquid orb, roughly the size of his house, that hovered over his house on the base. The objects made no sound and had zero obvious means of propulsion. And he says, my experiences with UAP were awe-inspiring, exciting, and terrifying. I don't know why UAP are flying over our bases and our neighborhoods, but I do know the UAP phenomenon is of the utmost importance to all of humanity. I currently have 5 other military witnesses to the Vandenberg incursions that are all willing to testify tomorrow under oath that these statements are true. We need answers to this mystery and better government transparency. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story. Former United States Air Force Technical Sergeant and witness, Jeff Nusatelli. This was 2003. There was a number of incursions during that year, up all the way into 2005. And he has the names, and they submitted it to the new head of AARO.
That coincides with the Tic Tac.
It does coincide with the Tic Tac. I was meeting with a general, and I said, God, it would be so amazing. You know, this story is like so unifying, and we have this kumbaya moment, and we discover that, you know, we're not alone in the universe, and wouldn't that be amazing, and blah, 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 the implications for all of humanity. And he sat there almost chuckling at me. And he looked at me, and he goes, you got it all wrong, man. You know, you got to see this through our lens. And I was like, through your lens? He goes, yeah, the military's perspective. I was like, okay, tell me. And I never thought about this before. You just mentioned it. He goes, okay, imagine this scenario. We sit there and we say, you know, my fellow Americans, it has been brought to our attention that there are craft of unknown origin whizzing around with impunity in our airspace. They exhibit a technology that's light years advanced from anything that we have. We don't know who they are, where they come from, what they want. Shall they turn to be hostile? We have no visible means of defense against them. Thank you and good night. We were talking about an alleged crash retrieval case that took place in Varginha, Brazil in 1996.
And your documentary on it, which is
Moment of Contact.
Amazing documentary.
So we're talking about that, and I came off the heels of doing The Phenomenon, which touched a little bit on a potential crash retrieval program, but then it was the crash retrieval over in Varginha, Brazil. And then I got hyper-focused on that. And then I had was a personal journey for me was, okay, the elected officials, what do they know, and when do they know it? Do we have a crash retrieval program? That's what I set out to do. And then 3 months after I was on your show in April of 2023, the highest level intel officer, David Grush, testifies under oath that there is a crash retrieval program and that the government does have definitive proof that we're not alone. So he kind of opened the door for me, and a lot had happened since the release of the phenomenon and Moment of Contact. There was all this legislation. There was the first congressional hearing. There was behind closed doors meetings with a number of intel officers and witnesses, and then you had the second congressional hearing, which was David Grush, which was absolutely phenomenal. I'm sure you saw that.
Yeah.
Right? And then just recently, just a couple of months ago, we had the third congressional hearing, which I actually, funny enough, got to attend. So it was the first time in my 30 years investigating. I was actually sitting behind people while they were testifying under oath about legitimacy of the phenomenon, as well as there's a crash retrieval program. I mean, people have to understand that feel like maybe these things aren't happening fast enough. Just a couple of years ago, they didn't even admit that the phenomenon is real. Now there's people testifying under oath that we have a crash retrieval program. So drip, 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 things are happening. They're not putting the genie back in the bottle. People are ready for the truth. They've had enough of the lying. I think we're way beyond that at this point.
I agree with you. However, when I confronted Mr. Trump, he was very cagey.
Was he really?
Very cagey. I've seen some things. They told me some things. He didn't tell me shit. He basically,
Really?
it
Did
was
his eyes
basically
tell you?
like neither confirm nor deny. No, there was no eyes. I don't do that shit. Especially to a pro like Donald Trump. Like, you're not.
Really?
Yeah. If you're going to do it to an actor or something, shut up. You're not going to know what the fuck
just
they think.
poker
Yeah,
face.
Daniel Day-Lewis told you that he just ate a baby. You'd fucking believe him. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, this idea that, like
little
what did
blood
his eyes
dripping down.
tell you? What did his eyes tell you? It depends
No,
on the
man.
person. Depends
Yeah.
on the person. If it's your regular crackpot and they tell you a
Yeah.
lie, you're like, something's up. But there's people that can hide things. They can hide things behind their eyes. I think he knows something. I don't think he's that interested. I think he's more interested. I think he's a sort of a no-nonsense type of guy. This is why. You kind of have to be managing multiple businesses simultaneously.
We got objects of unknown origin flying over residential areas, flying over military bases, flying over
Right.
nuclear silos.
Well, now I think he's much more interested because
That's a matter of national security. I mean,
it
people
is
are
now.
freaking out. Like, what the hell are we seeing? And they're going, we don't know what they are, but everything's fine.
Well,
There's
he's
totally
addressed it.
safe. There's no national security issue here. We don't know what they are, but you're fine. Don't worry about it. What happened, because everybody thinks the government suddenly had this epiphany to decide to be more transparent with the general public. That's not what happened. What happened is there were a couple of intel insiders in the Pentagon reviewing some of this classified data, or so-called classified data, and resigned in protest of excessive secrecy. They found a loophole. This is Lou, probably Jay Stratton, I don't know for sure, definitely Chris Mellon, and they walked these evidence tapes out of the Pentagon through this loophole. They bent the rules a little bit and onto the front page of the New York Times, right? So that happened, and it was exploded. You remember that. Mm-hmm. And since then, there has been this unprecedented push by a bipartisan group of lawmakers to find out what the intelligence agencies know and when they knew it. And so that started happening behind the scenes, right? So it was 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and then in 2022, they were like, we're having a congressional hearing. Congressman Andre Carson, I think he's of Wisconsin, but I'm not positive, he spearheaded the first open congressional hearing, public open congressional hearing. And in that congressional hearing, they acknowledged the fact that the phenomenon was real. It was slowly introduced that we were not getting told the facts. There was a document that came out called the Wilson Davis Memo, and that was about the discovery by a former DIA guy, Admiral Wilson, of the crash retrieval program that was like maybe 20 plus years ago. And none of the names or anything in that document were redacted. I cover that memo in the film. And then 2023, another congressional hearing. This time it was David Graham. It's been a steady progression. And so a lot has gone on between 2017 and 2024. And that is what this film does, is it covers behind the scenes effort, bipartisan, a group of lawmakers' effort to find out what the intelligence agencies really know. It was the winter of 1994. There was a unidentified flying object that was picked up on the base.
Old school UFO.
Oh yes, sir.
Not
Old
UFO.
school.
None of this
It was a
nonsense.
UFO. It was picked up on the base, and it was recorded by sensory data. And it was picked up on camera. It had camera footage of it from different locations.
What did it look like?
It looked like it was weird shaped. It was like an unusual shape, and there's people talking about it. It's in the movie. And
The film is in the movie?
the film footage that leaked from the base is in the
So
movie.
you can see what it looks like flying around?
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of blurry in some spots, and yeah, you'll see it. So
It's in the program.
it's in the program, yeah. And then you hear all the voices. I actually had the voices cleaned up. You can hear people talking about, what the hell is it?
Is there a clip we could see online? Just so I could show people
God.
what it looks like?
Damn, I'm sorry.
Could you maybe just say the actual name of the incident? Maybe
Yeah,
Jamie could find it?
Yeah, try and find it. It's Nellis Test Range UFO 1994. See if you can find it.
People put stuff up
It's
so
long
quick.
and it's really bad. Yeah, true. Good point.
Because it's on Amazon right now. People put clips up so fast.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and there's other things on there. So in any case, so that video.
Bam. There it is.
That's terrible. There's much better footage of it. Yeah, there's much better footage of it. It's in my movie. I had it cleaned up. But yeah, that's it basically.
Can I see it again? So that's what it
Yeah,
looked like?
the footage I have is way better than this. Yeah, that sometimes it's so.
So what did it look? Jesus Christ. You know what that looks like,
It's a
Jamie?
very weird shape.
Jamie, you know what that looks like? That looks like Terrence Howard's creation. Doesn't it?
It's weird.
What is it? What does he call that again?
But it was
Those things that lock together? Those, the flying drone thing that he created?
Linchpins?
Linchpins.
yeah.
Terrence Howard created this fascinating concept for like a drone, where it's like propellers going all these different directions, and they sync up and they link together, and it looks like that.
Oh yeah. So anyway. So it's footage. People talking about it. What is it? We don't know. It's not. It's unidentified, and it flies around the base, and that leaked, and the names of the witnesses leaked. 3 days later.
Can you explain? Sorry to keep cutting you off, but can you just say what it did, like how it moved?
It was like didn't have any visible means of propulsion. It didn't have any wings. It didn't have propellers. It just looked like an object, a round sort of object, weird shape, almost like a helmet or something with things coming off of it. And it was just moving around the base. And
How fast?
Nobody slowly at times.
Oh, this
there
is
it
the footage.
Yep.
Okay,
That's
So
it.
this is
That's
thing.
exactly it. Yep.
It's definitely not a big balloon.
And you hear everybody talking about it. The audio that goes along with it, and I had it cleaned up, is they're all talking like nobody knows what it is. And
So this is zoom. Is this why it's moved around like that? They're trying to keep it in focus and they're zooming on it.
It's all. Mr. Sands explains all of that in the film, the program. He talks about it. So anyway, so this leaks, people's names, the witnesses leaks, and 3 days later, he's in a convoy. Gesundheit. He's in a convoy, and it's early in the morning, and there's 3 jeeps, in convoy on a dirt road heading out Nellis Test Range. And they see what looks like maybe somebody was involved in a plane crash, somebody that was struggling out in the middle of the desert. It was early in the morning, it was wintertime, and they're looking at this individual and like, oh my God, is that that person? That individual needs some help. That individual looks like they need some help. They look cold. Their skin had a slight blue tint to it. And they're looking at this gentleman and they're like, hey, stop the convoy. This person needs help, medical attention. Maybe they had a plane crash, and so we're going to help this person out. And they pull the convoy over, and this individual comes up to the car. Jason Sands gets out the right side of the door, and as he's getting out, somebody in the truck screams, he's got no effing ears. And Jason says he turns around and he looks at this guy, and he had the same kind of uniform that they had on, but the uniform was just immaculate. Like there wasn't any dust on it, no dust on the boots. And he was thinking to himself, well, that's weird. This guy's got no ears. Is this guy some kind of mutant? And he looks at him and he said his eyes were a lot bigger. It's all illustrated in the movie. And then he starts talking like, he said it was like a snake bite him, and he was just paralyzed with fear. It was really scary. What am I looking at? Is this a human? Is this a mutant? Is this an alien? What is this? And he starts talking to him in gibberish. But he said he started to understand, like telepathically, everything this person or entity, being, creature, alien, whatever you want to call it, was saying to him, and he was looking for some kind of metal. And he didn't know tantalum, and Jason Sands like, I don't know, I don't have any. You mean titanium? And he's like, no, tantalum or something. And this conversation goes on for a bit, and then the guy just wanders back off and gets into that little craft that looked very similar to what you just saw there, and flies away. And he sort of stair-stepped away, and everybody sort of came out of this comatose state, and off they went. And we have the names of the other military witnesses that were on duty during the encounter, the alleged encounter. People are going to criticize me because I'm reporting on a close encounter of the third kind. But this, Jason Sands says he's willing to do a lie detector test, like public. He's willing to testify under oath that everything he's saying is true. We have a date, we have a location, and we have the names of the other on-duty officers. So what I'm hoping is, despite the level of criticism I'm going to receive for reporting on this, is that other individuals that have more information on this are going to be inclined to come forward. I also met with people in the Senate Armed Service Committee, Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, in the House, and they said Jason Sands is who he says he is. He checks out. He is named previously classified programs. He's identified. The guy's legit. His credentials check out, and so I opted to go ahead and report on it with the hope that more information will come out on it.